Hey everyone, I'm in my 2014 Mercedes-Benz ML350 W166. As I was driving home the other day, I opened my center console armrest storage area, and when I closed it, the right side door would not stay closed. Didn't matter how many times I tried, something was wrong, something was missing, and it just wouldn't stay closed. I was hoping as I was driving home that this would be an easy fix. I did some research online and found that this is a common problem, and especially with plastics, this being a 10-year-old car, it's going to get brittle and break. So I actually already disassembled this, but I kind of put things back together so I can kind of show you my process and how to take it apart so that it can help those of you who are in the same situation as I am here. The first thing you have to do is access the bottom screws, and there is a rubber mat at the bottom, so you will have to remove that. It's only on there by friction. It's not glued on there or anything, thankfully. It is a little tricky to remove because it's just really flush and kind of tightly on there. So you are going to have to use some pliers, or you might have to use a screwdriver, or you might have to use a pry tool, but just keep at it and you'll get it loose. So now that you have access to the screws, you're going to have to remove the two center ones here. Let me see if I can get my hand out of the way a little bit. There we go. The two center ones here, those are the Torx T30 bits that you're going to need. And then after that, there are four smaller screws that are T20s. So go ahead and remove those. You will need to remove this panel here. Just grab onto the USB port or the media interface port, pull up, push down on the working latch, and just keep pulling up. And you may need to use a pry tool to help you completely pull it out. Remember, I've already done this, so actually the USB port, I've already unlatched it, but basically you just take it. Let me grab it here. Okay, so here it is. It's really easy. You just push down on the clip here, and then as you push down on it, just pull it straight out. You might have to kind of use a wiggling action to kind of get it out. For the USB cable, you do have to unplug it because it is short, but I found that for the media interface connector, you don't have to pull that out. I couldn't even figure out how to do it in the short time that I had to do this, and I didn't really want to figure it out. But the cable is actually long enough where you don't need to pull it out. So now we've done everything inside this compartment. So now we're going to have to swing to the back seat, and we've got to unscrew a couple screws. Let me go ahead and show you. So we're in the back seat now. So you want to open up this back tray here, and this insert, just remove that by just pulling straight out. It's not screwed in or anything. It's just on there by friction. You can just pull it straight out like so. So now we're going to have to access the screws behind this tray, and really the only way to do it is by continuing to pull back on this tray past the stop here. I don't know if you can use a pry tool to make it easier to come out, but I just ended up pulling it by force, and thankfully I didn't break it. You might want to try using a pry tool to actually pull it out gently, and then it'll rotate downward. So now let me get my camera in position here. So you can see that metal part right there. That's where one screw goes. It's a T20. So you're going to want to unscrew that. And then on the other side as well, you're going to want to unscrew that. And it's a tight fit. It's a little tricky to get to. Just make sure you don't lose those screws. I saw online that there's two more you can unscrew so that you can remove this whole, this whole back part right here with the vent and everything. That might make things easier, but I found only removing two was fine. So now you'll be able to pull this back part a little bit more to access two more T20 screws. One is here and the other one is right opposite of this connector. Now I've already disconnected this blue connector, but you will have to unlatch that, disconnect it as well to proceed. I'm back in my front seat here, and to remove this center console armrest storage, just wiggle it. It's loose already, so you pull back on this back part that we were just at, pull back on it, and just wiggle it out, pulling it out, and it comes out fairly easily once you've undone all those screws. And remember this panel here, it's still connected with this one cable. It actually can go through the hole so that you can pull this whole storage bin out like so. So now I can work on this armrest storage bin latch mechanism. You can see how the latch works, where I need to replace it here. And by the way, this plastic piece that you see at the bottom that's broken, I did not do that. That must have been the previous owner that must have done that. But you can kind of see how the working one works, and you can see how the spring, and there's a post there. That's what actually broke on the missing piece. Here's my Amazon box that I received. I'll go ahead and leave a link in the description, but you can see here the original piece that broke and the post that broke here. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the spring. I tried to find the spring, but nowhere to be found. This is the Amazon version here, and I'm just trying to figure out how to place it in there. I think you put this back part in first, the part that rotates. You put that part in first, but not sure how much force you're supposed to use to put it in so that it rotates in place. Shoot, I broke it. Okay. Definitely don't push on that part here or else it'll break. It'll break clean off. Man. How does this go in? Maybe you want to, you know what? I might be able to fix that. See if I get that back out. Okay, I think you just have to push that in. Okay, once you push that in, there you go. Once this was in place, it just didn't feel smooth. It didn't rotate smoothly. It felt rough. It felt tight. And if I put the original OEM version on, now this one actually clipped on well, and it felt a lot smoother in terms of its action. I think with this Amazon one, if you want to use it, you will probably need to tweak it some. You probably need to trim it a little bit so that it rotates better. But I saw online how there was a user who mentioned he fixed this post, not by gluing this post back or anything, but instead he used a drill bit, and he just drilled back down in here, and then what he did was he would just cut it off. And I think I'm going to try that method out instead of trying to re-glue the post back on. So here's the piece. I ended up using the original piece because it was much smoother in action and a lot better, not having to fiddle with the Amazon piece. And I just drilled it in about maybe 3/8 of an inch or so. And then I used CA glue, and then I drilled it back in again to make sure it's firmly in place. It's not going to come out. And then I use a cut-off disc, and I just cut it off there, with the Dremel tool. And this is going to work great, I think. The Amazon box at least came with 2 springs. So even though you don't use the actual latches from Amazon, at least you got those 2 springs. So I think it's still worth it. But anyway, go ahead and place it in the back as usual, the back rotation part first. And it just it just goes in, again, much easier than the Amazon. And putting in the spring, though, is another question. I'm not quite sure how you can do this, if it's better to put the spring on before you put the clip in or after. I'm going to just see if I can fiddle with this. I think if I try to match what's on the other side, the working part, it may be even better if you use a pair of needle nose pliers or something to kind of get this in place. But after some fiddling, it goes in and it works just fine. So once this is done, as you can see, it's working. You can now do everything in reverse to go ahead and put this armrest storage bin back into the car and screw everything back in. If you do buy the replacement Amazon product that I provided in the description, just remember you're going to have to tweak it. And when you do install it, be careful with this post here. Be careful not to put any pressure on it or it will break. Thanks, guys. Hope this was helpful.